How do you cultivate a positive attitude? In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 different types of attitudes that people have adopted and how to cultivate what I believe is the right one, a grounded positive attitude to help you out the most in your life. So there's 3 different types of attitudes that people can fall into. And let's start with what I call a plastic positive attitude. This is a fake positive attitude. This is someone that is unwilling to look at the negative side of their life. They don't want to look at the dark side. They want to pretend like it's all good. It's all gravy, baby. And so for those people, they don't want to hear bad news. They don't want to look at their own demons and insecurities and how things could fall apart. They want to continue having fun and enjoying life. These are the people that often do a lot of affirmations and positive self-talk, and they get into a relationship with personal development that's all about the sweet, saccharine, sugary side of life. Is it saccharin or saccharin? Let me know in the comments. I don't know. And it's like someone that's drinking soda 7 days a week. At first, the first few days, it tastes great, probably feel good, but after day 4 or 5, it starts to hurt a little bit. And by that second and third week, if all you're drinking is soda, you're gonna feel terrible. And that's because we're missing out on a realistic perspective in life. If we're only seeing the sweet, sugary side, we're not being practical, we're not being realistic, because there's other things happening behind the scenes that will grab us and drag us under if we're not paying attention to them. And this lack of awareness can and will cost you in your life. The other type of attitude that a person can adopt is more of the doomer kind. And that's where they only see the negative side, the awful things in life. They refuse or are unable to see the positive side. And that one is also not based in reality, because there are an infinite number of amazing things that are going on in each of our lives every day. And what matters is that we either see them or we don't. And if we're not seeing them, we're not cultivating a balanced perspective. See, that's the key either way. If you're too positive, if you're fake positive, you're not being realistic, because you have a huge blind spot with things that could go wrong. If you are being too negative, you're not being realistic, you're not being balanced, because you have a huge blind spot with what could go amazing and what is currently going great. For example, in the past even 20 to 30 years, the quality of living in the world has gotten progressively better. I'm not saying that every country is doing amazing right now. I'm not saying there aren't people and cases and cultures that are suffering horribly. I'm saying as a whole, there is a lot of improvement in our lives, not just with technology, but overall well-being. Standard and quality of life has risen. Opportunities now are greater than ever. Imagine 20, 30 years ago not having this. You wouldn't be able to listen to me right now. YouTube wouldn't exist. So think about all the technological progressions that we've been able to experience even in the past 5 to 10 years that are mind-blowing. But because of perspective, it feels like, no big deal, who cares? And now it just becomes part of what's expected, and that lack of surprise and that entitlement to, no, I just need this, that's just a baseline. These things that would have been considered miracles 20, 30 years ago, that's just the baseline now. It creates disillusionment, and it creates a lack of happiness and a lack of joy. The third type of attitude, what I call a grounded positive attitude, is the one I feel like is most steeped in reality. And it's where we have to work to get to this point more. There's a lot less work required if we have like a fake plastic positive attitude. Just keep doing the affirmations over and over again. You throw in the headphones, you're just like, la la la, life is good, life is good, life is great. And if you're a doomer, throwing on the headphones and going, no, life sucks, life sucks, life sucks, life sucks. Either way, you're not seeing it. And you're also taking that knee-jerk reaction initially. You're taking what the outside world is initially presenting, or really, to be accurate, what you're interpreting the outside world is initially presenting, and you're going, oh, that's just it. Take it at face value. Boom. A grounded positive attitude can simultaneously see the great and the awful at the same time. A person can be presented with a bit of news, and initially it might be bad or sound bad, but that person can stay with it and then start to look at, well, what could be good about it? Let me investigate this a little bit. Let me get some other opinions on this. Let me ask myself, what could be good about this? Same token, they might get a piece of news that is initially good on the surface and go, all right, it's good, but before we get carried away here, let's look at what could go wrong. Let's face that and confront it. Let's ground this thing in a wider reality. There's a great Chinese parable, and it goes something like, there was a Chinese farmer who owned a horse, and his whole family worked on the farm. And the village would come and they would tell the farmer, you're so lucky. You have this wonderful, healthy horse. You're so fortunate. And the farmer would say, maybe so, maybe no. And the next day, that horse broke out of the farm and ran off. And the village came over to the farmer and they said, isn't this terrible? You're so unlucky. That horse is gone. You'll probably never see him again. The farmer said, maybe so, maybe no. The next day, the horse comes back and brings 7 wild horses back with it. So now that farmer has 8 horses. Of course, the village sees this. They rush over and say, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. Now you have 8 healthy horses. Farmer says, maybe so, maybe no. The next day, the farmer's son is riding the horse and falls and it breaks his leg. Village comes over and sees this. How awful. Your son broke his leg. This is terrible news for you. You must be furious. Maybe so, maybe no. Finally, the emperor of the entire country said that any able-bodied man is now to be sent to war. And so the entire village rushes over and they say, how fortunate you are. All of our sons have to go to war and yours can't because he broke his leg. You're so lucky. Maybe so, maybe no. The story to me illustrates this whole idea, this whole enchilada, okay, of grounded, positive outlook. Instead of rushing to a conclusion and putting that final stamp on an interpretation, this is awful. That's all it can be, awful for all time. This is amazing. There's nothing that could ever go wrong with this. It's perfect. Could be, might not be. We'll see. Let's let some time go by first. Think about all the moments in your life where things have initially felt terrible when you're going through them. Just uncomfortable. They sucked, right? Things that you really hated experiencing. But then you look back on it years later and you went, yeah, I'm really glad I went through that. I'm really glad I went through that. I needed that in my life at the time. Or that brought me something amazing and I'm so glad it did. So imagine, instead of waiting for all those years to go by, you just had a grounded, positive attitude in that moment. You ask yourself, well, maybe this isn't such a bad thing. Let me see the other side of this. How many times in your life have you been so excited and so certain about something? There was a time when I had a job interview lined up. I was living in LA and I wanted to break into the film industry and I had a job lined up. My friend was, I think, a page or a production assistant for a studio there in Hollywood. And he said, I would bet my right nut that with my recommendation, you'll get a job, you'll be good. Absolute certainty, right? So I show up at the interview, and this was right when the recession was right in the middle of its thing, 2009, 2010. And the guy interviewing me was like, look, normally I'd hire you in a second. You're smart. Anthony raves about you, but with the economy right now, we're not taking anyone on. So I don't know what to tell you. I can't even recommend another studio that might want someone like you. Good luck. And that was it. I went from, I'm walking in here, I got this, to crushed in about 15 minutes. But that experience taught me, like so many others, how to cultivate a more grounded, positive attitude. And instead of being so certain and so high and so excited about it, to be more grounded, to see what could go wrong, and to tell my friend, in this case, maybe so, maybe no. So either way, if you're overly negative, you're not seeing the positive. If you're overly positive, you're not seeing the negative. The key is both. If you can see both, then now you're free to develop a new interpretation. And ultimately, you can develop more of a long-term positive outlook on life, where you recognize and accept there will be dips, there will be moments that don't go my way, and that's fine. I don't expect life to just continuously get better. That's not going to happen. There's going to be ups and downs, but if I can anticipate some potential downs, but also understand that those negative moments can actually be part of something way better than I could have imagined and might actually be a really good thing, then I don't have to also do this emotionally throughout that whole process. Does that make sense? You're able to go with things and surf them and keep your balance throughout all of it. So that's how you develop a grounded, positive attitude in life. There you go. If you're liking these videos, more of these long-term, long one-take videos, let me know. Leave a comment, give me a like, and I'll be sure to create more of them. Again, they're easy for me to crank out. I'll be creating one hyper-edited video a week. That's more of me telling a story, making it easier on the eyes to watch. But for these videos, throw them on the background. If you go out, if you are interested in not just self-development, but real self-growth, self-realization, and you want to have something to listen to in the background, stay tuned. We got a lot of awesome content on the way. All right, that's it for now. Be well.